Hi everyone, it's us.
It
and we're going
is.
to do a roundup of relatively recent reading that we have done.
How alliterative of us.
Let's get into it.
Let's
Starting
get into
with
it.
Dr. Jennie, the now more or less visible Dr. Jennie.
Who today has come as a Greek god. Because me and Greek gods, hard to tell us apart, really.
It's the thing, isn't it?
It's the thing.
Well, you can't move for classical retellings these days.
You can't. We'll start with a historical set in Rome. Ancient Rome, which I read last year. It's the third of a three-part trilogy by a writer called Elodie Harper, who was new to me. And I read the third part of this before Christmas. The Temp of Fortuna, it's called. And it's basically the ongoing story of a enslaved sex worker who's, over the course of the three books, works her way up from nasty backstreet brothel through partner of concubine of bloke she doesn't like very much, through to being made a freed woman by Pliny the Elder, which is how she starts this book. And she's partnered to a freed man also, who also used to belong to Pliny. So the status of freed slaves is kind of weird because you still kind of belong to the person who's freed you. The first two books are set in Pompeii. This third one was started in Rome but went back to Pompeii. And you do know, of course, right from the beginning of the book, that it's going to feature the eruption of Vesuvius at some point, because it's got to, because Pliny, and this isn't me giving any spoilers because it's true, Pliny died in the eruption of Venus. He was asthmatic and he choked.
The eruption of Venus?
The eruption of Vesuvius, you know what I mean.
I do, yes.
Yeah, died in the eruption of Vesuvius.
The eruption of Venus, like, ooh la la.
Might have been that as well. No, he had asthma and he asphyxiated on the ash, which was very, very, very sad.
Bad one.
Yeah. So, yeah, and it had a lot of characters. And sometimes there were too many names. My brain struggles with too many names. I can't hold on to who all the characters are. And it was quite a while since I'd read the second part, so I couldn't quite remember what happened. But it all eventually came back to me. And it was a bit slow sometimes, but fairly enjoyable. And the description of the eruption of Vesuvius rang very, very true. Whether that's what it was like or not, it's hard to say, but it felt real. It felt like it was good. So yeah, I would give that a 4 stars, 4 thumbs up from Dr. Jennie. That's 2 thumbs up plus 2 thumbs up.
Sounds good. And that's the end of it.
So that's
is
The
it?
Temple of Fortuna by Elodie
Harper.
Harper, thank you. You can read my notes even better than I can. And I have the eyes of a Greek god.
Evidently.
I keep them in a box under the stairs. It was good. I'd recommend the trilogy. It was good. I hope I haven't put too many spoilers in, but you know, what are you going to do?
So, talking of books that where you sort of know the ending, and that can be a bit slow sometimes, but are fairly enjoyable. I finished
That's what it says on
The
my
Mirror
notes.
and the Light by Hilary Mantel. That's the third of the Wolf Hall trilogy. So I think last year I decided I wanted to press on, having read Wolf Hall but never read the second or the third book. And I did, but I started again because it's years since I read Wolf Hall. So basically I've read the whole lot in probably about a year. So Mirror and the Light, people probably know these are historical novels where the main character is Thomas Cromwell, who was the sort of COO for Henry VIII. Starts off as like a blacksmith's son in Putney and rises to be virtually running the country, and then has a catastrophic fall, all against the background of Henry VIII and his various marriages and the sort of politics of the time and the Reformation. So lots going on. People don't like this third book as much as the first two, and I think really the first half of it is there's a lot of recapitulation, revisiting things that have already happened. So it's, think, hang on, we had that scene and now we're seeing it again with a bit of a different perspective. So there's a lot of circling round. I began to think it was a bit like those comedy shows in the 90s, like The Fast Show or Harry Hill.
Yeah.
Where it's the same thing every week.
Sketches, a sketch
Always
show.
the same, but a little bit different. So it's a bit like that with the catchphrases. And that is part of it as well. You kind of get into the... it's such an immensely detailed portrait of the main characters. Their sort of ways of speaking and their little sort of nicknames and things like that are, you just get again and again and again. It is a book about waiting. The whole lot, you're waiting for marriages to end or begin. You're waiting for various punishments to happen. You're waiting for the Reformation, So there's an awful lot of like, these things didn't just happen. It's not like Henry VIII said, right, let's seize the monasteries, ride forth my knights, and bring me the things in 2 weeks. It takes ages and like loads of admin. So another thing is it's like a workplace novel, very much about politics and processes. And I think anyone who's worked in a big organisation will recognise, not maybe the beheadings and torture exactly, but you kind of recognise sort of performance reviews, human resources departments, the sort of way the finance department kind of have disproportionate amount of power. Anyway, second half it kind of gets going, things begin to happen. I did like it, there's some beautiful writing. No, I've not seen the TV show. I thought I might start watching it again, but I found it a bit lugubrious, to be honest. So I'm not sure I'll ever get into that, but enjoyed the book. So yes, Mantel, well played.
Was it
Hilary
a Mantel piece?
R.I.P. Yes, very much. It is. Really is.
Really is.
I made my peace with it.
Good. In that case, I will speak of The Folk of the Air by Holly Black, which I bought as a 99p 3 books deal from the evil of Amazon. So it was all 3 books in one set for 99p. Bargain. And it's it's a trilogy, obviously, because it's 3 books. It's after a little bit of a prologue, which is set in the real world, it ends up mainly taking place in the world of fairy, spelled F-A-E, because that's how it gets spelt these days, I think. And the main character, Jude, is human, and her identical twin sister is also human. And then she has a half-sister and a half-brother who are fairy. And her mother's first husband is a big, powerful fairy. And he does something awful at the beginning of the first book. Anyway, I read the first book quite early on last year, and then I thought, I won't read it all in one go. I won't do that thing that I do. I'll leave it for a bit and then come back to it. And when I came back to it, I couldn't remember anything that happened in the first book. But I picked it up as it had that Amazon. It's not called Kaleidoscope. X-ray.
X-ray, yeah.
It had X-ray, which helped a lot, so I could check back on who characters were.
See their actual skeletons.
And see their appearing on the screen. And I've got, in my notes, I've got magic, feuds, romantasy. It's definitely a romantasy. Enemies to lovers romantasy. There's a lot of it about. It's got snogging and squelching, but not too much. It's got sword fights and random other violence, quite a lot. And it's got too many names. This is my big problem, is I can't remember who all those people are.
Especially when they're kind of made up names.
Well, yeah.
Or similar
names.
Similar to each other.
Well, my problem with Roman historicals is the names are all, because you get things like Constans, Constantius, Constantinius, Constantinius,
Yeah.
but yeah, mostly enjoyable. It had a few lacunae where I was thinking, but most of the time...
You like to finish books, though?
I like to finish books, yeah. It bowled along at a fair old speed, kept me interested. I like the main protagonist. I like the main protagonist's eventual love interest. It ended much more interestingly than I expected, which is always good. In fact, now I think about it, I quite enjoyed it a lot. I think I would like to raise my bid of mostly enjoyable.
It's rising
rising.
The ranks, even as you speak.
It's mostly very enjoyable.
Okay.
I'd say, sort of.
So back to me. After the emotional devastation of Hilary Mantel, I fancied a little bit of a palate cleanser, so I read the first Sweet Valley High book. So I've been seeing how Ollie and MJ have been enjoying some of the later entries in the incredibly long Sweet Valley High series, and I want to get some of that action, but I thought I'd read the origin story to see what it was like. And I'd have to say, as an object, the book is lovely. I think if when a long series is launched, publishers, a good thing to do is to get a really good cover for the first one. Obviously, you want all the covers to be good, but the first one, if you've got an iconic cover that people can... because it's the one they're going to see the most, assuming somebody buys the first book, they would have it the longest. And I think this is one of those, and like I say, kind of an origin story. So twins, where would fiction be without twins?
Indeed.
One born just seconds after the other, holding onto the other one's ankle. Orphaned in the wilderness, they're suckled by a wolf. Found a city on 7 hills that goes on to become the centre of one of the greatest empires the world has ever known. Fast forward to the present, and they're at high school, and they're very different personalities. They're rivals. It's you got bookish Elizabeth and much more sort of flighty Jessica. They love each other, really. Tons happens. I mean, anything and everything that can possibly happen in a sort of a high school story or an American teenager story seems to happen. In the course of a couple of pages, you can have like oh no, rich people are trying to take over the playing field. Oh no, our parents might be getting divorced. It's just like so much, almost like you thought, well, I might only be writing one of these, so let's give everybody everything. So yeah, Double Love, Francine Pascal, just 180 to go. Plus the spin-off series.
But there are werewolves to come. So.
Werewolves are on the way. Yeah.
Good.
I thought waiting for Anne Boleyn to be executed was tedious, but waiting for the werewolves to show up at book 103.
Yeah. I'm going to go to my currently reading at the moment because I want to save my previously read till last. So I'm currently reading the second part of a trilogy called the Dragon Blood trilogy by a writer called Lindsay. I don't know whether it's pronounced Buroker. Buroker. Anyway, it doesn't matter how her name is pronounced. I'm sure it matters to her. But it's great. I read the first one, Balanced on the Blade's Edge. I wasn't balanced on the Blade's Edge. The book was called... I read the first one, comma, Balanced on the Blade's Edge, comma. Ah! Things are attacking me. Attacking me. Damn you, sir. Damn your filthy hide. Yeah. Keep some of that in, but not all of it. So I read the first one last year and enjoyed it. It was better than I expected. I did review it in a recent read.
Was that one when we were on holiday?
Could have been, yeah. Yeah, hard to recall. But yeah, it was another one that I bought as a 3-volume set for 99p. It had sucker stamped on the cover. So I read the first one and really enjoyed it. And again, like that Holly Black Folk in the Air or whatever it's called, thought I'd leave it a bit and not do that charge all the way through it, and found I'd forgotten who anybody was, but it had got X-rays, so that's all right. So it's an enemies to lovers romantasy. It's got pirates.
Hey.
It's got sorcery. It's got sentient swords.
The best kind of sword.
It's got magically powered flying machines. It's got snogging and squelching. And presumably, because it's called the Dragon Blood Collection, there will be some dragony stuff in it at some point, but not at the moment. I'm kind of halfway through it. It's really fun. It's just, very, very enjoyable. It's easy to read. My brain can't read difficult things at the moment. So it's dead easy and it's dead pulpy and it's really good. And the two main characters are just great. They're just great. She's a flyer of one of the magically powered flying machines who's crashed and got captured by some pirates. And he's a pirate. Oh, I didn't say. The second book's called Deathmaker. And Excellent. He actually is the enemy to lovers male part of the duo. He is Deathmaker.
Fabulous.
And he's...
might read then.
Yeah.
So you're halfway through the second book and no dragons or even dragon blood has showed up in the Dragon Blood collection?
But sentient swords, yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Sorcery, pirates, yeah. Magically powered flying machines. Flying corps of an army. Oh. All kinds of crazy stuff. Yeah, I love it.
Sounds all right.
It's really good, very enjoyable. It says here, very enjoyable.
Well, I read a British Library Tales of the Weird. This is the first of the subscription books that Jennie bought me for my birthday, so I am covering you up there.
Round of applause.
And I thought I'm going to stay on top of these. I'm not just going to shelve them. I'm going to read them as they come. So this one, The Haunted Vintage by Marjorie Bowen, is a novel. Most of the Tales of the Weirds are short story collections, and she's been in some of those. But a novel, and it's great. I really enjoyed it. It's basically what happens. It is set in Germany, one of the duchies, around sort of late 18th, early 19th century. But it has a sort of Ruritanian feel. You know, it might as well have been a made-up European country, really. So there's this young chap who's a marquis has been exiled to be in charge of a prison and asylum out in the wild. So it's in the middle of a forest, fabulous sort of Gothic building. And he's fallen out with his former mate, the Duke, i.e. the ruler of this area, over a woman. So there's a woman called Pauline who is betrothed to the Duke, but it's it looks like there's been an affair between him and this the Marquis fella, so hence the exile.
Is he a Marquis or is he a Marquis?
Oh, yeah.
I think he might be a Marquis.
Yeah, you're probably right, yeah. Well, it's not France, is it?
No.
Place he goes to, it's weird. It appears kind of haunted. He sees strange things that could be hallucinations. The idea is that a sort of evil entity in the form of a boar had tricked Saint Bernard of Clairvaux into building a monastery on a sort of pagan site, and then it all turned pagan, and there's been orgies and stuff. It's a slow burner. It's a bit like stepping into a painting and staying there. It's not so much like headlong plot as atmosphere developing in this weird situation. When I used to write music reviews, stuff was sometimes referred to as being woozy, a sort of slightly off-kilter, trippy feel, and that's what you get here. So there's vineyards and this sort of harvest they're building up to. So there's this feeling of like abundance of sort of nature and intoxication, and it's kind of oozing with weird sexuality and things like that. So yeah, fantastic. Haunted vintage.
And finally, my finally one is the best book I read last year. I read some duds last year. I don't know, but this is it. Everybody should read it who likes Christmas romances. A Scottish Christmas by BookTube's own Emma Bennet. And it's just an absolutely classic Christmas romance that hits all the beats. So the main protagonists are an event planner stroke artist and a rich businessman, and they're just fab. There's nothing to dislike about either of them, and you just like want them as your mates because they're lovely. And there's a Moppet who's the daughter of the rich businessman, and she's fab. And Moppets can be they can
it's a dicey move to make,
more so in films maybe than in books, but certainly the Moppet is lovely. The supporting characters are all fab. There's no one who's beastly in it, really. There's no beastly people being mean to each other and stuff like that. It's really got really nice, positive vibes. There's a small white goat who thinks it's a little dog, and he's called Houdini, and he's fabulous. He's just brilliant. And there's lots and lots and lots of classic emotional feels and lots of stuff about food and drink and eating and enjoying.
So you get the sensory enjoyment,
and big log fires and walks in the cold up hills.
Oh, right.
It's fantastic. I tried another Christmas book, but I had to stop it because it wasn't that. Spoiled me for Christmas book.
Not by Lady Emma of Bennet, though.
Not by Lady Emma of Bennet. No.
Else.
So I wanted to go and live
in
that story with you, of course. In Scotland
with a goat
on this man's estate.
It sounds suspiciously like. See, if there was a goat in my book, it would have been sinister.
Yes.
So, yes.
But this little goat is lovely, little white goat, and it was my best book of 2024, hands down, no messing. Beat a lot of things that I thought I was going to really enjoy and let me down, and it was just
brilliant.
Lovely. Write another one, Emma.
I think she will.
Yeah.
It's like a job for her.
Is it?
Good. Well, that's it then.
That's it.
We've told you about things we have read recently.
And are reading still sometimes.
Yeah. Well, I haven't told you what I'm reading, so I'm reading the Poisonwood Bible. No, I finished it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, back soon with something else. Bye.
Bye.
Can't quite reach.